If I ever fall in love again, Claire whispered to herself, God help the fool who dares to love me back. The words echoed in her apartment like a prayer and a warning. Claire Dalton, 31, was not the type to be burned twice. A trauma nurse by profession, she had seen enough broken bodies and shattered hearts to know that love, real, raw love, wasn't just vulnerable. It was dangerous. Especially when it came wrapped in charm and promises that time had no intention of keeping. And yet, love came again. This time, wearing combat boots and a bruised soul. Claire met James Whitaker in the ER on a rainy Tuesday. He was a former Marine, 35, stitched and silent, fresh from a bar fight he hadn't started but definitely finished. She was the nurse on shift, steady hands, cool gaze, and something about the way she cleaned the blood from his eyebrow, the way he didn't flinch under her touch, sparked a silent storm between them. James was rough around the edges but never unkind. He'd seen war, yes, but the deeper battle was within. PTSD, survivor's guilt, and a darkness that crept into his sleep each night like an unwanted guest. Claire had her own ghosts. A fiancé who cheated. A mother who abandoned her. Years spent pouring herself into other people's emergencies so she could avoid facing her own. But with James, she saw someone who didn't run from the hard parts of life. And he, in turn, saw in Claire a strength that didn't scream, but stood quietly like a lighthouse in the storm. Still, neither of them believed they could be loved. Not fully. Not safely. Which made loving each other all the more dangerous. In the beginning, their relationship was all fire and adrenaline. Midnight rides on James' motorcycle. Whiskey-soaked kisses in the dark. The thrill of touching someone who understood pain without explanation. But passion without peace is a fuse lit at both ends. The first crack came on a Tuesday night in November. Claire had spent 12 straight hours holding together a teenage overdose patient. When she got home, all she wanted was sleep. Instead, she walked into James slamming the fridge door, fists clenched, shaking with invisible fury. They sent another letter, he muttered. Another reminder that I'm a liability. Denied benefits again. Claire reached for him, but he backed away. I'm trying to help, she said gently. I didn't ask for help. And just like that, the wall between them rose again. Over the next few months, the cycle repeated: love, flare-up, silence, repair. James struggled with night terrors, sometimes waking up on the floor, sweating, gasping, unable to separate dream from reality. Claire tried everything: talking, waiting, begging him to get therapy. But James had been trained to fight through pain, not speak it. And Claire? She was trained to save others, not herself. Eventually, love began to hurt more than it healed. Until one night, Claire stood in front of James, eyes wet but voice firm. I love you, she said. But I won't bleed to prove it. James didn't respond. He just stood there, fists tight, jaw clenched. Watching the one person who truly saw him begin to walk away. That winter was cold in every way. Claire threw herself into work. James isolated, fighting ghosts in silence. Friends told her to move on. That love shouldn't feel like war. And she knew they were right. But knowing didn't make the heartache less. It took time. Time apart. Time for wounds to become scars and scars to become reminders, not open pain. James, finally, began therapy. Not for Claire, but because he realized he hated who he was without her. Claire, too, started therapy. To understand why she always fell for people she had to rescue. And how to stop abandoning herself in the name of loyalty. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. But it was healing. A year later, they met again. Not in the ER. Not in the middle of a storm. But at a quiet coffee shop where James sat alone, reading a book Claire had once recommended. She smiled when she saw him. He looked up, startled, then smiled too. This time, there were no grand gestures. Just a quiet hello, followed by two people choosing each other not out of need, but from a place of wholeness. They talked. They laughed. They forgave. And eventually, they fell in love again. But this time, love wasn't a battlefield. It was a choice. Love becomes dangerous when we use it to fill our wounds instead of healing them. True love doesn't demand sacrifice of self, it inspires the growth of two whole people, side by side. Sometimes, the bravest thing we can do is step away, heal, and then return with a heart that's not broken, but rebuilt. Because real love? It's not about saving each other. It's about surviving together.